speaking of strikes, we're covering a strike today. This happened recently right near me. This was right here in Los Angeles. And so this happened this week. Check this out. Let me go ahead and show this to y'all. Here is the Justice for Port Drivers Twitter account. Look at these lines of trucks at the Port of LA at the ITS terminal. Port strike in full effect. So there is a strike. The truck drivers went on strike. Here's the truck drivers lined up at the port there. And some of the, I believe some of the dock workers went on strike as well. That happened earlier this week in the Los Angeles area right near me. Now, the Teamsters did this along with the ILWU union, which is a big union right here in my neighborhood in San Pedro. It's a huge union. Well, it goes beyond San Pedro, but there's a huge presence in, in my neighborhood. So this is from April 14th, happening now in a historic walk-off. Teamsters and ILWU Local 63 members just shut down one of the 7 major terminals at the Port of Los Angeles in solidarity with striking port truck drivers. Learn more about Justice for Port Drivers at teamster.org. So they shut down one of the ports here in Los Angeles. Now, I'm not sure what is going to be happening next with this. I've been trying to get in touch with someone involved with the strikes. I was hoping to have someone involved with that strike on the show today. I was unable to find somebody who was able to come on the show. It's hard, especially over the weekend. A lot of times people, they kind of unplug over the weekend. They're not thinking about work or work-related things over the weekend, especially if they're organizing a strike and they just went on strike. They might have other things going on. So I was unable to acquire somebody. But here's something interesting, and we're going to keep an eye on this and see what all happens with this week as time continues. But I wanted to share this. So this is an article from NBC. There's a couple things I wanted to put. A terminal at Port of LA impacted by truck driver strike. So members of the International Longshore and Warehouse Union, that's the ILWU, joined the action by the Teamsters. So what they're saying here is that dock workers stopped servicing trucks owned by Universal Logistics Holding in solidarity with truck drivers who went on strike Monday, this is last week, against the company. So they were joined by, they're saying that some of the drivers were fired after voting to form a union. Philip Sanford of the Port of Los Angeles told City News Services that one of the port's 7 terminals had minimal to moderate traffic disruption by the workers who are not servicing the trucks that are being targeted by the Teamsters. Sanford could not quantify the cargo impact at the port, but said it was minimal. That same terminal also had about 20 to 30 picketing Teamster members at 12:40 p.m. on Wednesday, Sanford said. We are assisting the Teamsters with their right to picket and the First Amendment rights, and we respect that. And we're assisting them to do that while making sure to keep the port functioning. So why do I bring this up? I bring this up because this is very typical of the corporate media to try. Well, I bring this up first and foremost because there's a strike that's going on, and I like to cover strikes on this show. But isn't it interesting how the first statement they take with an article in the corporate media is they're downplaying the effects of the strike? Yeah, it didn't really inconvenience much. Big deal. Disruption was at a minimum, which obviously if disruption is a minimum for a strike, it's not going to be a very effective strike, is it? Now, are they telling the truth? Is that accurate? I can't say for sure because I wasn't there, but I can say this. Now, I think we've all been on a plane before, or you're familiar with flying to some extent. Whenever a runway is not available, just one runway, it throws everything off because, well, this runway is not available, so this plane's not going to take off on time, and this plane can't land where it's supposed to land, so it has to find another place to land. And then if you're part of the situation, you might be in a situation where you're just flying overhead for a while because you can't land. You got to wait to land. Or you can't take off for a while because you got to wait in line, and then it throws off another plane that's supposed to take off at a given time. You get the idea. So when just one runway is affected, it really throws everything off. So if one of 7 ports is shut down, I would assume it would do the same thing to an extent. I would assume that would cause a lot of disruption because now boats can't go into that port. So if they were supposed to go into that port, they got to find somewhere else to go. Well, other boats are scheduled to go into a given port. Keep in mind, this is the port of Los Angeles and the port of Long Beach. These are some of the busiest harbors in the world. At one point, the busiest. The port of LA was at one point the busiest. I don't know off the top of my head if it still is or isn't, but it's among the busiest in the world. That's all that's, that's all that matters. It is among the busiest in the world. It's not like this is some port that's hardly ever used, and if you shut down, one of the 7 ports, well, they'll just go somewhere else. No, this is the port of Los Angeles. So I find it hard to believe that there was minimal impact. I find that very hard to believe. And again, we're going to try to talk to some people involved. But, again, here, let's take a look at the picture again. So in the first paragraph, the NBC article said, oh, yeah, it was no big deal. It was minimal. It was minimal impact. But take a look at this. I mean, look at that. Look at all those trucks. Look at all those trucks. And so this entire port is shut down. So there's 6 other ports they can go to, but one of the 7 just entirely shut down. And you're going to say it's minimal? You're going to say that's minimal. Now, maybe for whatever reason it was. I can't say 110% for sure that it wasn't. But I can say this. This is what the corporate media does to any type of movement or protest or strike. This is what they do, and this is what they have done for at least the past 40 plus years. At least, because, you can trace this back to the 60s and the anti-war Vietnam protests. So for at least 40 years, and if you trace it back to the 60s, 60 years, really. I think it's fair to say 60 years. What they do is they marginalize a movement and they trivialize it. That's the first thing they do. First 2 things they do to any type of social movement or any type of strike or any type of social disruption. They try to make it out like it's nothing. They try to make it out like, and you saw them do that during Occupy. Oh, it's just a bunch of goofy people in a drum circle. That's all it is. We're not going to actually talk to some of the people who are expressing ideas, some of the public intellectuals who spoke at Occupy, some of the people who have a very concrete list of demands and what this is all about. They're not going to film those people. They're going to film the person who's dressed up in a costume running around. That's what they're going to do. That's what they did. Because the first thing they want to do is trivialize a movement, marginalize it, make it out like it's nothing. Because they want to give you the idea that that's what any type of mass movement is. If you're part of any type of mass movement, any type of strike, any type of action, you're a radical, and you're just a goofball who just has this, you just want this utopia, and you're not realistic, and you're not even really bothering anything. The port's just fine. That's what the corporate media does to social movements. Because they know at the end of the day, a social movement, a strike, a protest, it disrupts the status quo. And you have a corporate media that thrives on the status quo. So it's no big surprise that A, this got very little coverage in general. This strike received very little coverage. And B, the coverage NBC did give to it, they make it out like it's not a big deal as soon as possible. Like, yeah, it's minimal disruption. They talk to one guy who has the interest of making it a minimal disruption, PR-wise, and he says it's a minimal disruption. And so we're going to keep an eye on this. We're going to hopefully get some folks who were involved to come on this show. Again, I apologize that I wasn't able to make that happen over the weekend, but, it was hard to get people to get back to you over the weekend. But it is still something I'm working on. And we're going to see if more happens with this. Again, this is right in my neighborhood, folks. This is a strike going on right in my neighborhood. So we'll keep an eye on it as it unfolds.
Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to together and make